A big week when it comes to the economy, and most of it is pretty bleak. Treasurer Jim Chalmers' forecasts not really reflective of his party's optimism or confidence during the election campaign. It paints a grim picture, and one that will hurt. Inflation.
We didn't make this mess, but we take responsibility for cleaning it up.
Inflation is expected to continue to climb until at least the end of this year. Interest rates, well, they'll do the same. The R word is being bandied about. Is a recession looming? And what will that mean? David Llewellyn-Smith is the editor of MacroBusiness. He believes the Albanese government is making significant economic mistakes that will hurt us all. David, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure, Erin. Great to be here.
Complacency is a big concern for you. What do you mean?
Basically, I think there are a number of things going on in the economy right now that the Albanese government could make better and are deciding not to. Sticking with their election platform, but they've been presented with a number of shocks and difficulties that weren't in the plan, but you've got to govern what's in front of you, not just apply your platform. And so I think they're going to find themselves in some difficulty.
The first real challenge for the new government was and is the energy crisis. How do you rate their response?
It's very mixed at the moment. They're making some noises about doing appropriate things to fix it. But on the other hand, when they put out these extraordinary inflation forecasts and downgrading of everyone's income over the next 12 months, 24 months, it rather suggests that they're not going to do anything at all, given energy is such a contributor to inflation at the moment. And so, they're not doing enough is the ultimate assessment.
This isn't just the fault of the new government, though. There have been policy failures here for a long time, haven't there?
They have. We've had essentially a gas crisis running in the country for 10 years, commencing with the opening of big LNG export plants in Queensland in about 2014. And your viewers may not be aware that gas, obviously, you get a gas bill if you have it on in your home, but gas is also the critical input into setting the price of electricity in the national electricity market. And so when the gas price goes up, so does your power bill. And since 2014, there's been a pretty steady march upward in both the gas price and electricity price. And the reason for that is we simply commissioned too many or too much volume of gas exports out of Queensland, or allowed a number of cartels to build these big export plants without the foresight of reserving ourselves enough gas ourselves. And so the end result was, as they exported more gas, we've ended up short, and with the price of gas going up, the price of power going up. And that's run across a number of different governments, but now that we've been sort of struck by the shock of the Ukraine war and the international gas price has gone nuts, these cartels have brought these prices home, and it's driving both utility bills crazy and inflation as a consequence of that. And this is where the Albanese government is really not doing enough. On our numbers, we're looking at probably 6% being added to the CPI over the next 12 months, purely on the basis of the energy shock. And it's really, pretty preposterous when you look at it in terms of we dig up this gas, and to some extent this applies to coal as well. We dig up this stuff for next to nothing, down the road, and yet we're paying the same prices as Europe or North Asia, or have done over the last few months. And so we're importing this enormous kind of inflation that we just don't need.
It makes absolutely no sense. 70% of our East Coast gas goes to China. Is there a clash of national interest here with the government attempting to reset relations? How will that dynamic work?
Well, I think one way of interpreting what the Albanese government isn't doing, that is not reserving enough gas for local use is that 70% of it is going to China. And they're at the moment trying to reset that relationship, make friends again, if you like. And obviously, if we were to keep enough gas for ourselves and cause the export cartels to do what is called force majeure, which is to basically default on some of their export contracts, then that would really upset China, especially in the context of trying to get them to resume coal imports or lobster imports, etc. So that there is a clash of priorities for the national interest there. Nonetheless, I think most Australians would agree, given that the inflation is going to drive their income down and their house price down, asset prices down, as interest rates go up, that they should be the priority instead of placating China.
I think most people would agree with that. Very quickly, we don't have much time left. A looming recession, is there still time to take action? What can the government do now that will help us avoid that?
Well, they can put in either gas reservation and possibly even coal reservation to crash these energy prices. That would make a huge difference. It would stop 6% of upwards movement in the CPI for starters. The Reserve Bank has itself nominated these as very critical to the rising interest rate environment. And so that would be a very, very important move that would help avert the possibility of recession. If they don't do it swiftly, then I think a recession is inevitable. We're seeing very swiftly falling house prices in the major capitals, especially Sydney and Melbourne. And when was the last time we saw house prices crashing and the Reserve Bank, forecasting another 2% of rate hikes? I mean, that's a pretty unprecedented circumstance. And so if they go ahead with that or are forced to because they're chasing these energy prices, then we're going to see, a significant house price correction, and ipso facto consumption will fall, business investment will follow that, and we'll be in recession by the end of the year.
Oh, we'll watch with interest. David Llewellyn-Smith, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.